Hello.
Welcome, Ms. Namrata, ma'am. We'll start the session by 11:05. I request you to wait for 5 more minutes. Namrata, ma'am, am I audible? Am I audible, ma'am? Please unmute yourself, ma'am. Namrata, ma'am, am I audible?
Sir. You can able to hear you.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible
Can
now.
you-
Namrata, ma'am, we will start the session by 11:05. I request you to wait for 5 minutes.
Hello.
Ms. Namrata, ma'am, we will
Yeah,
start.
yeah.
We'll start the session by 11:05. Requesting you to wait for 5 more minutes.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namrata madam, welcome.
Good morning, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning. Dr. Vadivel, madam, Vivekananda College.
So, sir, Balu sir just said that we can begin in 5 more minutes by 11:05. So I'm just waiting for
Yeah,
the
sure,
5 minutes.
ma'am. Okay.
So should we begin?
Dr. Balu sir,
Yes, sir. Should we start now?
okay.
By the time the participant can join. Request Dr. Vadivel to start the program.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Balu. Good morning to all. Today is the third day of online training program on child-centric disaster risk reduction being organized by Vivekananda College in collaboration with National Institute of Disaster Management, New Delhi. This today is a need of our to the students community as well as the organized sector employees. So we are very much fortunate to such a apt person is joining with us. She is going to handle the topic on mental health of children in the time of disaster. Welcome, ma'am. I cordially invite Sri B. Marimuthu to introduce today's resource person formally. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, all of you. It's my pleasure to introduce our today's chief guest, Ms. Namrata Sharma ma'am. Basically, he got his
Marimuthu sir, you are not audible. Marimuthu sir, you are not audible. Dr. Vadivel sir, are you there? Namrata ma'am, am I audible to you?
Sir, is it clear?
Your voice was breaking. Please continue from the beginning.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. Please continue, sir.
Sir.
Marimuthu sir, are you there? Marimuthu ji இருக்கீங்களா? Marimuthu ji, நீங்க Marimuthu ji,
My voice
unmute.
is audible.
Yeah, please.
Sir, கேக்குதா sir? Hello.
கேக்குது, please
Sir.
continue. Video off பண்ணிட்டு அப்படியே
Okay,
பேசுங்க.
sir. சரிங்க sir. I'm very Namrata Sharma ma'am. She's a psychologist and is a PG degree from University of Delhi. She got course in the field of counseling, and now she is working as a counselor in IWSCA of New Delhi, and he has a in the field of counseling, particular to the students community, teens, and the women's, particularly living in the shelters. She's an expert in giving counseling given to the shelter women's. We are very fortunate and we are very happy to invite to this 3 days online training. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Over to you, ma'am. Please continue. Ma'am, please unmute yourself. Okay.
Sorry, my net is a little slow today, so I will most probably stop my video while I'm presentation. I hope that's okay. So I'll begin my sharing my screen. Just give me.
அவங்க மீட் பண்ண முடியலையா? ஆமா, அவங்க மீட் பண்ண முடியல.
So while my screen on yours, I will just quickly begin. Sir, I can hear my echo. That's why. So I don't know why my screen is not getting.
The presentation is already given to you, ma'am. Please, you can try also.
I don't know. Nothing is moving. Nothing inside. Oh, okay, it's coming now.
Ma'am, if you are convenient, you can go ahead with the presentation also, if you are convenient.
Sorry?
If you are convenient without PPT also, you can continue.
So yeah, and now that why my it is taking a little longer than expected, I will begin, and most probably my screen will be shared within a few minutes. So good morning to all the participants, and without any further delay, I would like to begin today's presentation. My presentation is, as sir mentioned, going to talk about mental issues in children. So I will be pausing my video because I think that takes up a lot of internet. So yeah. So will be focused on mental health issues in children. I would request you all to keep yourselves on mute because that will create a smoother functioning for all of us. And as I mentioned, I am a counseling psychologist by profession. I have been working with YWC of Delhi for the past 3 years. Apart from that, my area of work has been okay. I will not be visible because I have turned off my video as it is taking up a lot of the internet and the connectivity is getting disturbed. So before we begin the presentation, it is a requirement from the government that we keep on reminding you all about the current preventive measures that you need to take. So far in the past 2 days, you have been discussing a lot about COVID, about disasters. So definitely this will be a repetition for you, but it's important, equally important. And what I would like to say here is that whenever you step out of the home, wear your mask properly. It should you should wash your hands with soap and water, or if you don't have soap and water, try to sanitize them. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Because whenever I've seen people, whenever they enter the house, first they take off their masks and then they wash their hands. So it's important that first you wash your hands and then take off your mask or touch your face, mouth, anything in the house. Keep social distancing. It's slightly becoming a little difficult nowadays. However, it is very, very important because COVID is still here and it is here to stay for years. So let's not forget to keep that social distance and clean surfaces regularly. So all you students who are here, who are in classes or going to exams, for attending, some classes, giving assignments, whenever you are going outside, in buses, metros, in your classrooms, try to, whenever you sit anywhere, sanitize that place first. Don't try to touch handles that are touched by others, maybe with gloves, and try to keep your surfaces clean by sanitizing them with an alcohol-based sanitizer. So coming to my presentation now, COVID-19 and mental health issues in children. And my presentation will be from a purely psychological perspective. I have been seeing a lot of comments that we have many students over here from BCom and different kinds of courses. It will be fun to interact with you all, as this is one side that youngsters must be quite aware, because psychology and mental health issues nowadays are something that we all must know about. Okay. Now, when we talk about childhood, what comes to your mind? What do you think about when you think of a child? Maybe people think of a child of a small height who ranges from the age of 1 to 10. But according to psychology, a child, a period of human life, of the human lifespan between infancy and that is from the age of a childhood period. Now, the one thing about development is that it happens in a process. So, as you all know, while you all were growing up, it did not happen that overnight you became an adolescent. It all happened in a process. It happened over the years and it was a smooth process. So, one thing about human development is that it does not happen in steps. And every individual grows at a different pace. Every individual has a different speed. We are all individually different because we have been born in different families. So we all have a different speed of developing. That is why sometimes the childhood period also extends up till 18 years of age. And mental health in childhood is something that is a very new concept currently. Now the reason behind that is that adolescents, like young adults, now that the awareness towards mental health has been created to a very vast extent, wherein people know what is stress, what is anxiety, what are other kinds of mental health disorders. However, in children, this is not happening. People are still not aware that even they might have mental health issues. So when we talk about mental health in children, it means reaching developmental and emotional milestones and learning healthy social skills and how to cope when there are problems. This is mainly what mental health in children comprises of, and I will be talking about a few more pointers ahead. Now, within childhood also, there are 3 stages. So the first stage is called infancy and toddlerhood. So if you can see in the first photo here, in the first image that I have shown, there is a child who is probably of 8 months, 6 months, and he is an infant or a toddler. He will soon become a toddler because children who range from the age of birth to 2 years are considered to be infants and toddlers. And during this period, a lot of bodily and physical changes happen, dramatic changes, wherein the child learns how to hold things. Some children at the age of 1 also start getting up and walking. So even the child starts to recognize different people, parents. He loves his parents when he looks at his parents, but maybe he doesn't like an uncle or an aunt, so he starts crying. So all these drastic changes start happening. Second period, which is early childhood, a child who is from the age of 2 to 6 years. Now, here, if you imagine, if you have a child in the family who is of this kind of age, he starts to go into school. Not during COVID, but before that, the child used to go to school, and there the child learns how to be more self-controlled and self-sufficient. Now, self-control, why? Because when he's at home, he can urinate anywhere, defecate anywhere. The parents will pick up, all his dirt, everything. He can throw all his toys around. But when he is in school, he needs to be very, very disciplined. So during this period, a child learns how to be more independent and self-sufficient. He also expands his language here. Why? Because he's meeting new friends, making relationships with new peers. Okay. Finally, there is a third period which is called middle childhood, and here it ranges from 6 to 11 years. Now, children learn about the wider world and new responsibilities here because now they have become much, much older and they get school homework. They have to handle their own classroom work. They have to, maybe do some daily chores at home. Parents give them pocket money, so that is another responsibility. And here the child is pretty much considered to be at a grown-up phase. So these are some, these are the 3 childhood periods, and I wanted to talk about these because I wanted to create a mental image in your heads that whenever we think about a child, what are we looking at? What kind of, age group are we talking about? Moving on, let's talk a little bit about disasters and what happens during a disaster. What happens to the mental health of a person during a disaster? I am not audible. Is it true? Okay.
You are audible, ma'am. Please continue.
Yeah. Okay. I'll try to switch on my video also. Maybe you all can see. So now, what happens during a disaster? During a disaster, a lot of mental health issues tend to tend to be born, and mostly it has been seen that whenever a disaster strikes in any place, in a village or a city, in an entire country, trauma tends to happen, and trauma tends to set in approximately 33 to 90% of the population. So, and it has been considered that children face higher trauma or stress than adults. Now, there are 2 major reasons that I have understood over a period of time that why children experience more stress than children. And the first reason behind that is that they are exposed to new and confusing environments every day or constantly. Now, for a person like me, obviously COVID was a very unprecedented situation. But if I do something wrong as an adult, I know that the consequence of my action will be negative. It will be wrong. I will get a punishment for it because I have already dealt with that kind of situation earlier. But for a child, he will keep on doing the mistakes and he will get punishment out of it. Sometimes children get very, so if I were to give an example of a very small child, okay, yes, I will be talking about how to control stress, don't worry. Now, if I were to talk about a very small child, this child does not know what an electricity socket looks like. He looks at, one day he comes across an electricity socket and he sees, wow, I think it's a game. And he puts his finger inside the socket and he gets an electric shock. Now that was a very, very negative experience for him. Why? Because it was a new situation for him. He doesn't know that whether it is a game or I will be, uh, damaged or hurt by that situation. That is why we say that a child is like a blank book or a blank slate. It is a blank slate in psychology is also called tabula rasa, the technical term. So here the child keeps on experiencing new situations. It might be good, it might be bad, but the bad ones give them more stress. And another reason why children experience more stress than adults is possibly because the sense of self-worth is intimately tied with the expectations of others. So everywhere they go, every relationship they have with another person, that other person lays a lot of expectations on the child. Now, the parents expect the child to behave in a certain way. They want, Harishji, don't send annotation requests. So these children are expected to be behaving in a certain way, or they need to when they are with their friends, the friends say that you should wear these kinds of clothes, you'll look cooler. So they expect something from the child. The teacher says, do you do your homework? That is another expectation on the child. The relatives say, oh, how many marks did you get? Are you doing well in your in your football team? So all these expectations also cause a lot of stress on the child. And there are a number of more reasons why children experience more stress, but I have just talked about two because I wanted to tell you all that even children go through stress. And a lot of mental health issues are related to the stress they experience on a day-to-day basis. Okay. Now, stress can also be of two types. It can be good stress, that is eustress. It is called eustress, and one is bad stress. Bad stress we all are aware about, and I will be elaborating on that a little further. But eustress or good stress is said to be kind of motivating, to be very honest. Now, where do we experience good stress? You will ask me, why? How can stress be good for us? Now, I have an examination coming up in a week. I need some kind of stress that will motivate me. Now, if you imagine yourself in a situation, do you really think that you will work hard if you are not stressed about your examination? Do you think you will give long hours in the day where you will sit and study with dedication if you are not stressed about it? So that stress which motivates you to do well and motivates you to work harder is called good stress or eustress. Then we have a bad stress. For some people, stress can't always be good. You know? So that's why we have divided the types of stress into three. There are three types of stresses which we experience on a day-to-day basis. Now that I was having some questions related to stress. Maybe if you can all stay with me till the end of the presentation, all your questions will be answered. Yes, all these. Sorry. So the first kind of stress is called basic stress. And this kind of stress we experience on a day-to-day basis. Maybe we didn't get a salary. How will I buy something for myself? My child's fees is due. That is a stress for me. I might lose my job. That is a stress for me. I forgot to bring groceries today. I will get punishment from my parents. That is a simple kind of stress. Now, one good thing about this stress is that it can be overcome. And it can be overcome by a few physical and psychological adjustments, and it will just vanish. I'll give you an example again. I am having an examination within a week. Okay. Now I am sitting on my sofa watching Netflix. I know I have an exam. It is at the back of my mind. I'm having basic stress regarding my exam, but all I'm doing is sitting on the sofa and watching TV, eating popcorn. Now, some adjustments if I make in my life, like getting up, planning my day, or making a schedule for myself, dividing my syllabus, then that stress will go down. And that is the good thing about basic stress. Okay. Now, if I don't get up and study, I have only 7 days left for my exam. If I don't get up and study, I don't remove that basic stress, then it will start to accumulate and become cumulative stress. That is the second type of stress. Okay. One thing about cumulative stress is that it is a little common too, but it becomes very, very difficult and takes much longer to overcome by physical and psychological adjustments. So, like I was saying, I have 7 days for my exam. If I plan accordingly, I might overcome that stress. But if I don't plan, if I don't get up from my sofa, I keep sleeping, I keep playing games on my phone, video games, I keep sleeping, then the stress will accumulate and become cumulative stress. And slowly the days will pass. I will only have 4 days, then 3 days left, then 2 days left. And finally, I will be in a very difficult situation. And it will be very difficult for me to overcome the stress. And it will take a lot longer and harder for me to, study, because I will have to give extra hours. I will have to compromise on my sleep because now I only have 2 days left instead of 7 days. So I hope you all understood what cumulative stress is. Now there is a third kind of stress which is called basic burnout. Burnout is a severe state of emotional and physical exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. So clearly, we all know what burnout is. But who does this happen to? People usually say that people working in offices experience burnout, but that is not really true. Burnout can happen to anyone who has been working very, very long for a longer period of time. And that can happen to a housewife who works at home. It can happen to a child who is preparing for an interesting entrance exam. It can happen to you college students as well. If you are constantly studying for an entrance examination, maybe studying for an upcoming final examination, it can happen to anyone. It is basically work related, and that's why it is also called depression at work. Now, stress can be a little more traumatic than our day-to-day lives. Traumatic stress happens mostly during a very, very difficult, unprecedented situation or during a traumatic experience. That is also of two kinds. The first kind is called critical incident stress, and here I want you to focus on the yellow words because I will be explaining it to you with an example. You all will get the presentation by the end of the day, so don't worry about noting down things. Just listen to me and understand the concept within examples. So, like I was saying, the first kind of traumatic stress is called critical incident stress, and here the what happens is that let's take an example of any disaster situation, maybe COVID. Okay. Now, COVID is a pandemic situation. We were all entering 2020, January 2020. We were all entering a new year. We thought it is a new year because it is 2020, end of a decade, and it will be fun. Every new year brings a lot of happiness. We were all very happy with our lives. I had an examination in March, but suddenly we had this news that we have to go into lockdown. We all were listening to this certain news about a virus that had taken over the Wuhan, but we never expect anything to hit us so quickly, right? So Modi ji, our Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, he declared complete lockdown in March. Now that was a very sudden and disruptive situation. You can see these words here. And this is what happens during a disaster. All of us are very comfortable in our lives, but suddenly there is a very threatening situation. It is very sudden and disruptive, or sometimes even violent, a situation that comes into our life, which disrupts everything, even our sense of being in control and fundamental perceptions of one's environment as safe and predictable. When COVID landed in India, we were so scared. There were a number of news on the news channels. They were like, it can also be like Ebola virus. It can also be like a zombie virus. There were so many random videos. Even the news channels didn't know. The doctors didn't know what was happening. What is this virus? And it took us nearly 1 year to overcome that those symptoms actually. So what happens during this disaster is that it creates a lot of critical incident stress, and people experience this stress. Some people experience this stress immediately, and for some people it is delayed, because like I mentioned in the beginning, all of us are different. We have a different threshold for stress. Maybe a tiny little problem in my life does not matter to me, but it might affect my brother to a very large extent, because all of us are different, right? But stress is a very natural phenomenon, and do not consider it to be very, very negative, because um, stress can happen to anybody, and it is very, very natural. It does not mean that you are weak, it does not mean that you are sensitive. Stress is a very natural reaction to a difficult situation. Okay. Now, moving on to the second type of stress, traumatic stress, is secondary traumatization, and that is a state of exhaustion and dysfunction, whether biologically, psychologically, or socially, as a result of prolonged exposure to traumatized person. So, if I were to explain it with an example, doctors, emergency workers, working in very difficult situations, the rescue people who rescue people from earthquakes, they spend weeks, months. Even our doctors have been spending months with people inside the hospital. They're wearing those PPE kits. The housekeeping staff who are cleaning constantly. There are so many dead bodies around, and that causes a lot of secondary traumatization, because the trauma from these inflicted people somewhere moves into the emergency workers, because they are spending so much of time between that kind of environment, and that causes secondary traumatization. Now that we are mostly done with our basic concepts, and also somebody, I had saw this comment, you can also always apply these concepts to an adult, a child, any day, because this is mental health is universal. It can be applicable to anybody. Like physical health, all our bodies are same, our mind functions can also be the same. So stress can happen to anybody, trauma can happen to anybody. But now let's focus a little bit more on children, and how COVID-19 affected the lockdowns, how the lockdown impacted our children, and what areas did it impact us. Because once we know that how the COVID-19 impacted our children, we will be able to identify the effects of these, um, you know, of the lockdown. So the first thing that happened was that there happened to be a lot of lack of social interaction. Now all of us are social animals. We need social interaction. We need that interaction with people around us. We need that interaction with you know our loved ones, and if we don't interact, we will probably become very, very self-isolated, and that is what happened during COVID-19 lockdown. All the social interaction that our children had with their friends, with their families, distant families, was taken away, and it created some sort of stress in those children. Another thing that happened was lack of physical activity. Now, children need physical activity. We as adults also need it, but for children, it is important for their overall growth. And because we were locked in our homes during COVID-19, all our children were not able to experience any kind of physical activity. All they were doing was moving from one room to another, or maybe sitting in front of the TV, watching TV, eating, and then sleeping again. So that caused a lot of issues in children as well. Then there was a lack of cognitive stimulation. Now, all of us know that when a child goes to school, he knew that he has to go to school and be disciplined. He needs to sit for 5 to 6 hours and study. And during COVID, when the online classes were happening, he would only sit for 1 hour, maybe 2 hours, and he would be like, "Oh, मैंने आज बहुत सारी पढ़ाई कर ली." The child used to feel very, very proud about it. So don't you think somewhere down the line the cognitive stimulation had reduced to a large extent? And I feel like in the longer run, they will face a lot of issues regarding this. Then there was lack of external exposure. If you all recall, sometimes when we were young children, we used to be taken to zoos, to amusement parks, we went to different kinds of museums, and the experience was somewhere out of the world. The happiness that we used to get to going to picnics, when we knew that we have to go for an outing tomorrow, it used to be so exciting. It used to give us so much happiness. But during the COVID-19 lockdown, the schools were shut. And again, the external exposure was very, very limited or equal to none. And that also caused some stress in the children. Because something that gave them so much happiness was now no more existing. Apart from these very obvious things that I mentioned in the previous slide, four very major things were happening inside the homes that caused a lot of mental health issues or stress in children. Now, according to WHO, 1 out of 3 women were facing domestic violence globally after the lockdown. If you go and read newspapers, do some research on the internet, you will find a lot of studies that were done where it was shown that the statistics of domestic violence the number of domestic violence cases had gone up, whether it was India, it was USA, France, Germany, everywhere. And mind you, domestic violence does not only happen to the woman. It can happen to a man of the house, it can happen to the child of the house, the grandparents, even the dog of the house. Because according to the law, domestic violence is defined to be when violence is happening under one roof. So every person living under that one roof can be, prone or vulnerable to domestic violence and will be called domestic violence. So a lot of familial disputes started taking place. Parents were frustrated, irritated, constantly sitting at home, no money, all the savings were going away. No school, the children's future was, very, very unpredictable. So the parents were facing a lot of emotional turmoil, as a result of which family disputes and physical abuse cases went up. And just imagine, the child only has his parents to talk to. And if the parents are only fighting with each other, if there is a lot of physical abuse happening in the house, then what will the impact be on the child? This also caused a lot of mental health stress into the child. And one of the very profound effects that also happened during lockdown was sexual abuse. Now, my question to you all is, I will only give you 1 minute. Let's see in the comment section. That according to you, where do you think sexual abuse to a child happens? Might be, happening the most. I'll give you 3 options: in school, at home, or outside. So out of these 3 options, where do you think a child will experience maximum child abuse, or sexual abuse? Let's see in the comment section. The 3 options are outside, home, and school. So according to you, where do you think that a child might experience sexual abuse the most? Or where he is most vulnerable to experience sexual abuse? Okay, outside and home. So let's see. Okay, outside the home. Somebody said outside the home. Okay. Outside the home. Okay. Outside. Okay. These responses are enough. So yes, outside the home, because that's what we see in the news. But if you go a little deeper into the research, you will find that a child is most vulnerable at his home. Sexual abuse cases happen most at home. And the unfortunate part is that these cases are reported less. That is why people don't even know whether they exist or not. And sexual abuse cases happen to children through parents. Parents abuse their children. I've had cases where 18-year-olds, 21-year-old boys and girls have been abused by their own siblings, by their grandparents, believe it or not, their own father, their own mother, an uncle, aunt, maybe an elder cousin. So sexual abuse can happen to anyone, and children are the most vulnerable at their homes. And that happened. If you go and research a little, sexual abuse cases went up a lot because everybody was in their homes. So the child was most under the highlight during those times. And because of stress, people wanted to relieve it in some way, and they had nothing to do at home at all times. So they felt like a child is the easiest to attack. Also because he's small, they can easily scare the child. That is why this kind of abuse happens at homes very often, because they say, I will kill your parents if you tell anyone. I will, you won't go to school again. I will, nobody is going to believe you. So all these things tend to happen. So I won't go too much into detail about that because I have some amount of presentation left and I have very less time. Moving on, now that we have understood that what COVID-19 lockdown has done to our kids, what was its impact, we now need to understand what were the effects of the lockdown, and how do we as parents or caretakers identify that my child might be stressed. Now, normally when people would say take them to a child psychologist, to a clinical psychologist who is a licensed person, an RCI licensed psychologist. Yes, definitely you should always seek help from a professional, but are there ways where you can first identify or observe your child and then decide whether you need to take them to a doctor or not? Yes, there are, and I will be telling you a few over here. But before that, let's talk about this diagram, which is called a cognitive triangle. This has three components: thoughts, behaviors, and emotions. And these are interlinked with each other, because if you see this arrow, it is a dual directional diagram. It does not go in one direction, which shows that all these components affect each other in every way. So what we feel affects what we think and do. What we think affects how we act and feel, and what we do affects how we think and feel. This might sound a little confusing, but I'll explain it to you for example. So just if I were to give an example of myself, okay? Now I have applied for my education degree in another country. I have gone there and I have spent a few months over there. But while I was going to my college, I was sitting in the bus and I suddenly started missing my family. I became very, very homesick. So my thoughts became very negative because I started worrying about my mother. My father is getting old. I'm really missing them. So as a result, my thoughts became very negative. Now, while I was missing my family, my mood became very, very low. I felt very blue. And as a result, I started crying, which means my emotions also became negative. And because all these, I was so occupied with my thoughts and I was so sad, I did not see my stop and I skipped my stop. So as soon as I came to my senses, I told the driver to stop the bus and I ran. And while I was getting off the bus, I fell down, which shows that my behavior was also affected and it became negative because I was not focused whether I was stepping on the step or not, right? Now, if you apply this diagram or the situation in any life, in any situation of your life, if you apply this diagram, you will find that if even one component is positive, the other two will also be positive. But if even one is negative, the other two will also be negative. Moving on the basis of this diagram, you will be able to, as parents, identify that my child might be stressed. Maybe he needs some sort of professional help. Maybe he needs a little bit more attention than than normal days. But let me just be very, very, I would want to put out a disclaimer here that I have whatever symptoms or pointers that I've written here are not just it. There are many more. You know what your child is like. You know the actual temperament of your child. So if I say that anger outbursts might show that your child is stressed, yes, that might be true. But one other thing can be that maybe he had a fight with somebody in the park. Maybe he didn't get what he wanted. So it might be situational. And you have to be very smart parents where you understand whether the emotion, behavior, or thought is situational or whether it is because of a long-term issue. So observe your child closely, and if the emotions or thoughts or behaviors last for more than 2 weeks and it is impacting their day-to-day life, then you take them to a RCI clinical licensed clinical psychologists, and you will mostly find them in government hospitals in your state or in your area. But don't take them to any. Okay, somebody said explain previous slide. So I'm not sure what you didn't understand, but let's take, when I'm open for questions, you can then ask me what you didn't understand, and then I'll explain it to you. Okay. So let's begin with emotions. Now, one way in which you can identify whether your child is stressed or not is by observing their emotions. Now, emotions can be positive, emotions can be negative. But mostly when we see negative emotions in a person, that is when we feel that maybe he is stressed. So anger outbursts. The child is yelling, hitting, breaking objects around the house, not obeying, using bad, abusive language and fighting constantly. Maybe he's hitting the dog of the house. So that can be a sign that there is something that is stressing the child out. Okay. Sadness, on the other, if your child might be very outgoing or a little introverted, so he might show symptoms of sadness, mood fluctuations, irritability, frustration, crying spells. The child might start crying on tiny little things, fear of stepping out or interacting with others because he keeps saying मेरा मन नहीं है, मुझे बात नहीं करनी, मेरे दोस्त नहीं बनते हैं. So all these things. And jealousy. The child might get jealous if the parent starts to talk to another child. Maybe he does, if the parent doesn't give the child any time. Another way where you can identify if your child is stressed or not is through behavioral changes. Okay. Here you can see if the child is still separated from the family. Maybe he's socially withdrawn. Okay. Lack of sleep or excessive sleep. Either he's sleeping too much or he's sleeping too less. Maybe he's having nightmares. He's not being able to, he's feeling anxious at the night, so he's sleeping less. And maybe he's sleeping more because he might be feeling a little low, a little sad. There is something disturbing him. Now, it can also be situational. Nowadays, it's cold, people want to stay in their beds, so maybe the child is sleeping a lot. Or the appetite increases during winters. So you have to be smart parents or smart counselors, caretakers when you observe the child over a period of time. Okay. Now the child might increase his appetite or the appetite might decrease. Wherein maybe the child wants to eat all the time. Some children also stress eat a lot. Okay. Or this appetite might go down. I don't feel like eating anymore. Why? I don't know. He's not interested. Due to the change in sleep and eating patterns, might be a change in energy levels, and that may show some sort of lethargy in the child. These are some behavioral changes you can see in your children. Okay. The child might become clingy because he wants the parents' attention, and the parents, he are not understanding. So what is clingy? You must have seen, if you have a child in your home or when you were a child, when you were small, if your mother is getting ready to go somewhere, you will start climbing on her. You'll be like, "Mujhe bhi jana hai, even I want to go with you." So when your child is, getting too sticky with you, that is what we call clingy, because he's constantly wanting to be with the mother or the father. He doesn't want to leave their side. He says, "I want to be in your arms." Godi le lo, So that is what we call as being clingy. Now, that can also be a sign of stress because the child wants the parent's attention. Why is he seeking so much attention? Maybe it's just situational, or maybe it is because he can't speak. Small children don't have vocabulary. They don't have proper language development. So they talk to you through their behavior, through their emotions. So if you are parents, please be aware of every little action of your child. Don't ignore anything, because children are very pure. They don't do anything without any reason. They always have a motive. They always want to tell you something. Okay. Now, a few other behavioral changes can be inattentiveness. बैठने पढ़ाई करने बैठाया, doesn't want to study. Okay, you're trying to teach the child for a very long time. You're trying to make him learn something, but there is very less attention and maybe none. Academic downfall is a decrease in the grades. It is not coming to a plateau where the child is now maintaining a certain amount of grade, level of maybe average or above average, below average. He's not maintaining that level. He's just keep on going down. So you need to see why that's happened. Loss of interest. Maybe he used to love playing games. He used to love playing a certain kind of game, but now he has lost interest in that. Why? What is the reason behind that? Try to know. Struggling to conduct simple activities, maybe bathing, brushing your teeth, buttoning down your shirt, tying your shoelaces. This used to be easy tasks for the child. But lately, he has been struggling to conduct these simple activities. So maybe he is occupied elsewhere. Somewhere he is stressed. So ask the child, what is wrong? What has happened? Okay? Physically weak or self-harm. Now, because he's not eating well, he's not sleeping well, he's not happy anymore, showing symptoms of sadness and frustration or anxiety, anger outbursts. Therefore, the child might become physically weak, and some children also do self-harm. They cut themselves, and yeah, I know there are a lot of youngsters here, and this is not just pertaining to children, but self-harm is also a symptom of stress. So I understand that it's not the best way, but when you are exposed to different kinds of situations or new people, when you have so much of exposure to the internet, to the outside world, young children tend to learn these things. So parents need to keep a very close eye on children regarding this. If a father has a boy, you need to check the body parts, whether there are bruises, cuts on the body, and if there are, then you should definitely focus on why it is happening. Same thing for the mother. If you have a girl, you can check the child if there are any cuts or bruises. Why is there any? Okay. Coming to the third part, you can also observe if the child is going through stress through the thoughts, maybe through the cognitive functions, the mental functions, and that can include memory deterioration. He used to remember, he or the child remembered a lot of poems, a lot of rhymes. Lately, all that memory has gone somewhere. There is no recollection of those learned poems or rhymes, or number or counting. Maybe because of the COVID lockdown, the child hasn't had practice. That can be one reason. But you have been learning, you have been teaching the child constantly, but despite that, the child is not being able to retain that information. What is wrong, right? Academic downfall, again, you can focus on the grades. If there is any problem with the grades, why is that happening? Language, no new language development is happening. So in young children, if you see, they start talking and they start connecting two words, or they use like pani do, mama ajao, or daddy go, um, baby play. So these words, this is how a child starts to develop the language. Now, because of COVID, there has been no interaction. Parents are busy with their office work. The child is not being able to talk to anybody. Therefore, there won't be any language development. So if there is no language development happening and the child is forgetting how to talk with his previous skills also, then this is a sign of stress, and you as parents need to start exercising these skills a little. Keep that communication, whether it's verbal or non-verbal. Decrease in learning speed. Again, you have given the child, हाँ ठीक है, टेबल याद कर लो, 5 का टेबल याद कर लो. पहले बच्चा एक हफ्ते में टेबल याद कर लेता था. The child used to remember, used to learn a table within 1 week. Now it has been a month and the child is not interested. He's not able to learn. He's not able to, even half of the table he's not being able to learn. So the ability is going down. Inability to solve complex problems. You are giving them riddles, some puzzles. You are, giving them a series of tasks, but they are not able to fulfill those tasks in a proper manner. So, inability to solve complex problems. Decision making is affected. You ask the child to go and buy something. Well, instead of buying 3 things, he brings 5. Who told you to buy? If you've given him 5 tasks, out of that he's not being able to decide. So, for example, you tell the child, go and bring 5, books. Now, the child cannot lift those books. So, one good decision would be you should take small books, maybe thin books, but that decision making is affected. He thinks कि मुझे वो काम करना ही है, and that is why the child feels more stressed. Maybe this example was a little confusing, but if you did not understand what decision making is, I will explain. You can write it in the chat box. Okay, so we are falling short of time. It's already 12. I'll take maybe 10 minutes more. Okay. So now what will happen if you are not able to identify that your child is going through any kind of stress? Then, like I said, in basic stress, if basic stress is not removed, it accumulates and becomes cumulative stress. Similarly, short-term psychological symptoms, if not taken care of, might take another turn and become long-term psychological issues faced by children. Now, here I have talked about very common disorders, that is anxiety and depression. There are a number of more disorders that exist in children, but these two are more common. And again, my disclaimer here is that the points that I've written here are just a drop in the ocean. Every child is different. Every child might display different behaviors, emotions, different kinds of symptoms. So these are just for your knowledge. Don't go home and start assessing your child for anxiety or for depression. These need to be assessed by a proper professional psychologist, and they do a number of testing material. They apply a number of tests, and only after that they are able to properly diagnose that disorder. So this is just for your knowledge that usually when we see anxiety in children, these are some outward signs or symptoms. So some outward signs of childhood anxiety are kids may have trouble sleeping, they might complain, they might have stomach aches or even have fever, different kinds of physical problems which are also called psychosomatic symptoms. Because of stress, these symptoms tend to arise. They may become avoidant and clingy. I talked about clingy. Either the child is becoming very, very distant, or he's becoming very clingy. They might have trouble. They might have trouble in focusing or be very fidgety. Now, if you are, the inattentiveness is very visible when you are teaching a child. They become, very anxious. Some children become very anxious because studying is a very negative experience for some children. Now, there can be a number of reasons behind that, but I won't go into that. So, they may have explosive outbursts. I mentioned in the emotions part where children have emotional outbursts. In anxiety, children tend to have these emotional outbursts very, very commonly. And again, psychosomatic symptoms, like I mentioned in the beginning, that when you have stress and you have stress related to a particular situation or an object, so whenever you go near that object, you will start having, anxiety symptoms, and some of them can be psychosomatic. So, for example, a child doesn't like to study, or he's being bullied in the school by a senior. So, whenever he steps into the school, he will start feeling dizzy. He might start having stomach ache. If you recall, whenever some of us, for me also, whenever I am supposed to go for a test, for an examination, my stomach starts to growl. So these are some physical symptoms that are related to our stressed situations. Now, another disorder is depression. Depression also happens in children, but we usually call it sadness unless it is diagnosed. Over here, the child doesn't necessarily mean that the child has depression if he is sad. Now, there are a number of symptoms in depression also. So it can be that sadness becomes persistent. Meaning of persistent is that it stays there for maybe 2 weeks. So if a child's sadness persists for more than 2 weeks, then you need to take them to a psychologist to get diagnosed. Maybe it is interfering with their normal social activities. The child is not going out. He's not interested in studying, not interested in playing, not interested in sleeping or eating. So doesn't that mean that there is something very, very stressful happening? Then family life is also affected. Some other symptoms can mostly revolve around mood changes and sadness. A feeling of hopelessness is another symptom of depression. Now, children who are slightly older, maybe above the age of 12, can also get into drug or alcohol abuse and substance abuse, you call that. And they also get into suicidal ideations or self-harm. So, like I mentioned, all this is somewhere related to the exposure they get. Would you know what suicide is if you don't, if somebody doesn't show you, if you don't watch the television or you watch the news? You wouldn't. It is all about who you are sitting with, what kind of exposure you are giving to your child, what alcohol is. To be very honest, till a very big age, like till 15, maybe 14, I didn't even know what alcohol smells like, what it actually is. So it's all about the exposure that you give to your child. Now here are a number of, there is a list of symptoms here which I have already discussed in my previous slide. But when we list these symptoms under a category, then we are able to diagnose them as disorders. So in depression, these symptoms are most commonly seen. However, if you find these symptoms in your children and they persist, then you should take them to a doctor and to a psychologist. And when they diagnose it, only then call it depression. I will just take 5 minutes. So sorry for the delay. So now I would quickly like to wrap up my presentation by telling you a few ways in which you as parents or sisters or siblings or brothers, caretakers can reduce that stress, those negative effects of, stress in children. First is be aware of your child's needs, whether it's emotional or physical, by giving them appropriate amount of attention and spending quality time. Now, some people would ask me, what is quality time? Forcefully talking to your child, asking them about their day? No. Quality time can also be having a cup of tea together, having the 3 meals of the day together, sitting together and reading your individual books. Maybe you have the child completed a task today, sitting down and talking about the experience, taking a stroll in the park. All these things can be quality. Oh, am I still here? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible. You are audible. Now you are not audible. I think Ms. Namrata may have some technical issue. She will join soon. By the time, I request all the participants to kindly post your questions in the chat box. I request all the participants, you may now your questions in the chat box. Ms. Namrata Sarma, I made you as a presenter once again. Am I audible to you? Please unmute yourself, ma'am. Ms. Namrata Sarma, requesting you to unmute. You are not audible to us.
Okay, so unfortunately my net just crashed. So I'll just quickly finish without sharing. It'll take another few minutes. So if you could just allow me, sir. So yeah, like I was saying, spend some quality time with your kids. Educate them about the current scenario, what is happening around the world, how much difficulty people are having to move out, why your education is suffering. Educate them, because the lesser curiosities they have, the lesser stress they will experience. Okay. Provide them with adequate affection, exposure to the outside world. Take them outside, read some books to them, some encyclopedias, go to the parks. Just refresh the minds of your child, because online classes are very, very stressful as it is for them. And maintain that family environment, because balanced environment, because you as parents are the only people who can provide any kind of comfort to your child. So if you are stressed, if you are creating that negative environment in the house, that will in return cause a lot of stress to the child. Keep friends connected, go meet, have some, interactions with your child's friends' parents, maybe one or two, maybe from a distance, because even they would like to talk or meet their friends. Limit passive activities. As soon as online classes are over, try to keep a number of activities aligned for your child where they are busy throughout the day and they don't get the time to go and switch on the TV or the laptop or the phone, because screen time does add a lot of stress to the child, mentally and physically. Increase outdoor activities. That is the best way where you can utilize the time, and by maintaining a timetable and doing activities such as cooking, teaching them some daily chores, extracurricular activities. You just go online and there are hundreds and millions of activities that you can do with your children. Do some reading with them, because this is the best time to increase their vocabulary. And the more you read, the more your vocabulary will improve. And that can be done by proper modeling. If you want your child to study, you want your child to read, you will have to be good models and sit with a book alongside with them. Because if you are on the phone and the child is you are telling your child to study or read, they will not do that. So be the kind of person you want your child to be, you want to see, your child to be in the future. And be less aggressive, because that is another thing that children latch on to very quickly. And celebrate. Be that kind of person your family wants to be around. Create a happy environment by celebrating every occasion, and be mindful. So in all the slides I said, be very, very aware, 100% there with your child, so that whenever there is a fluctuation or change in the mood, maybe in the behavior, that something might be wrong, and you can just nip the bud, in the very beginning only, and not turn into a bigger psychological disorder, not wait to become bigger in future, right? So be mindful of your child's need. So and with that, I want to end my presentation. Sorry for the disturbance. So, over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we have some questions. This I'll to you. If possible, you also can try to read from the chat box. The question raised by M. Rama Subramanya Raja: what is the difference between mental illness and mental disorder?
Okay, so there is no difference between the two, but these words are used interchangeably. And so mental illness is not the correct word to be used, to be very honest. You can say a person is not mentally healthy, or you can say the person is facing some sort of mental disorder. However, people do use these words interchangeably, and there is no difference at all. When you talk about mental disorders, it becomes a little more specific to a particular disorder. So, yeah, there is no difference at all.
Thank you very much. I was trying to get unmuted since quite a few minutes right now. So why won't we take the question answers at the end of the second session?
Yeah.
Because time is running out really fast.
At the end.
Yeah.
Sure, sir. As you wish. Now I thank. What happened to me? Yeah. Now I extend my sincere thanks to Ms. Namrata Sharma for taking a wonderful session. So we'll have a question answer session at the end of second session. Now it's my immense pleasure to introduce Dr. Kumar Aka. He's a social scientist and a reputed disaster management professional. He has earned masters and MPhil and PhD in sociology from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He has also earned a master in disaster and emergency management from Tel Aviv University. 12 years of professional experience in disaster management, while in National Disaster Management Authority, he was managing Needless to mention, with solid foundation and in the early years of inception, the force today has achieved a for its professionalism not only within the country but also abroad. As planning specialist and head of the Department of Disaster Management at Noida Authority, he established a vibrant disaster management mechanism in twin cities of Noida and Greater Noida, and mega school earthquake evacuation drill was successfully organized, coordinated, and conducted in 110 schools. On the same day, at the same time, about 1 lakh stakeholders, including students and faculties, participated in. This was the first of its kind mega drill to be conducted by local authority in the country and earned a place in Limca Book of World Records in 2018 edition. Apart from his professional brilliance, Dr. Kumar has pursued his academic excellence quite vigorously by engaging himself in writing articles and books and presenting his ideas in seminars and workshops. In lieu with visionary initiatives of Executive Director NIDM, presently Dr. Kumar Raka is proactively engaged in establishing child-centric DRR Center NIDM as Center of Excellence. Over to you, Dr. Kumar Raka.
Thank you very much, Dr. Balu. Thanks a lot for that so much elaborated introduction of mine. Can you just transfer the presenter role to me so that I can share my screen?
Yeah, a technical assistant. I request Dr. Kumar Raka to make us a presenter.
Presenter, yeah.
I will also try. Yeah. Made you as a presenter now, sir. Please.
Yeah, now I can see that. Thank you very much. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, it's opening, sir. Yeah. Please make it full.
Yeah, that I'm doing. Okay, right. Everything is all right on over your screen. Should I play it now?
Yeah, you can play the PPT now.
Okay. So, dear participants, the first of all, today I am going to talk about the school safety because if we are talking about child-centric DRR and we don't touch the school safety thing, then the entire CCDRR will be somewhere lacking something very important. And since most of you are students, so this school safety is not only in the terms of the school safety itself, but it's for all educational institutions right now what they are facing. And my mode of presentation will be the similar like the first day, that I won't read out the PPTs. I'll just keep discussing with you, and I'll take you through the international scenario of whenever I'll be talking about school safety, you just try to understand I'm talking about all types of educational safety and security norms, right? And that is much more important when we are discussing about school safety. So the first thing, why it's important. The second thing, what is the international scenario, what is the national scenario in between. If time will allow me, I'll keep elaborating the thing. Otherwise, I'll try to restrict myself within the time limit so that we can go ahead with the valediction session as well, and no one's time is actually lost. And yes, all the questions, whatever will be coming in your mind during the presentation, just keep putting that into the chat box, and my colleagues, Dr. Balu and coordinators of this program will keep looking at that, and we will take all your questions at the end of the session. My best thing is what I try to do, that not even a single question is left unanswered. So keep posting that, and after finishing my session, we will take all your questions, whatever. And now you can ask me questions from all the 3 days, not only about this session, all the 3 days, whatever question, whatever confusion you are having, just put that in the chat box, and I'll request Dr. Balu to sort out the important questions which we will be taking after the end of this session. Okay, so let's start. Why school safety is very important? The first thing is that you know that 1/3 of our childhood, 1/3 duration of our childhood is spent within these four walls, the school premises. 6 to 8 hours, roughly 5 days, somewhere it's 6 days also, every week we spent in the school. Similar with the colleges or universities or anywhere else, whatever educational institution is that. And in that situation, when the child left his home or her home and reaches out to the school, the safety and security is transferred from the family members, the parents, the caretakers, from caretakers to the school authorities or the educational authorities or school management. And this highlights actually the children's safety, importance of children's safety within the schools. But one more important thing, since most of you people are young people, okay, so you don't have that much safety and security concern when you are leaving your home and reaching to your educational institution. But in terms of schools, where there are a lot of kids, different age group kids, you must have learned in last 2-3 days. There are dependent kids, there are very small kids, there are toddlers, in fact, okay, and they also left their home to reach to the school. But something is coming on my screen. Let me check how to. Only when A has requested something and that has stopped me.
I request all the participants to not send any unnecessary message. I request you to kindly post only the question. Do not send your name or address anything. Kindly avoid or sending the emojis also. Requesting you all to post the questions.
One person, someone by name of Veldivan, just disrupted the entire presentation. Don't do it. At the end of the session, we will take all your questions and answers. And meanwhile, don't play with your device also, because once you put something like anything on your device, that comes to me and I have to answer that. And that will disturb everyone else. So just wait for next 45 minutes. I will not take even 45 minutes. I will wrap up in 30-35 minutes. So I was telling that, see, there are toddlers also, very small kids also, and when they left their home and unless they reach their school premises, their safety and security is responsibility of home. We have to think about it, because for grown-up children, elder children, they are on their own. They can keep themselves safe most of the times. But toddlers are not like you, not like us. The very young kids are not like us. They need safety and security when they leave their home and reach their school, because within the home, the safety and security is parents' responsibility, caretakers, family members' responsibility, and when they reach a school, that responsibility is transferred to school authorities. But there is a gap in between, and you will see how. And when we are talking about structural safety, then we have to talk about 2 points of views, the structural and non-structural point of view of safety and security. What is structural and what is non-structural? Let me explain you. Structural I am not going to explain here, because in the next slides you are going to see, but non-structural is also very important. And like Namrata ma'am right now told you in her presentation that there are a lot of mental stress and this and that, and she elaborated a lot of things. But do you think how that mental stress is originated? Sometimes it's out of the educational system, the school itself. Suppose that a kid is going to the school and he is afraid of any teacher or any staff, or maybe any of his friend also. So what happens if a particular kid is afraid of any teacher, any staff, or any other friends of his or her, then he starts fearing going to the school, and he starts doing some or the other excuse that he is excused of going to the school. So the problem is that we have to understand, if a kid was very fond of going to school, doing his or her homework and a lot of activities, and all of a sudden, if he or she starts fearing that I don't want to go to school, There is something changed, behavioral change. What Namrata ji already told you. So these things are non-structural safety and security concern. Maybe some teachers, some staff, or maybe some of his friend is bullying him or harassing him or abusing him or her. So immediately then we have to identify the behavioral change, and that are the main focus of non-structural safety and security. Now, one more distinction I would like to tell you. That see, structural safety and security is very important because it's instant killer. Okay, instant killer. If we compromise with structural safety issues norms, then what happens? Instantly, something happens some or the other day after, and at a single moment or within a seconds or within minutes, thousands are dead. But non-structural are also very important because that completely hampers the overall development, because that is affecting mental health of the kids. Okay. So let's see how. The first, let's go with the international scenario. See all the earthquakes. These are the structural safety and security issues. And you can see that 1988, the first earthquake record in the recorded history of school safety, wherein thousands of school children were killed and 400 school children were killed at the elementary school itself. 1997, Ardakul earthquake, 110 students killed again. Ardakul is a place in Iran, and all these pictures on your screen are the real pictures of these earthquakes. Now, coming to the next one, 1999, September 21. Jiji, Taiwan is a province in Taiwan, and there an earthquake took place and total of 700 schools nationwide damaged. 2008 must be, most of you will be remembering, because that's not too past. It's a recent one, and think that seconds, earthquake takes seconds. That is why I told structural safety and security are instant killer and thousands are killed. 90,000 students were killed and 7,000 school buildings were damaged. And you see what happens after the earthquake. And all these grieving parents who have taken the picture of their kids, the children, into their hands and crying the last rites. So after the earthquake, there has been other incidents also, and like terrorist siege in Russia. Schools and educational institutions are not capable enough to fight with the militancy or the terrorist organization, and it's a soft target that just make captive of those school children or school authorities, and after that has actually happened. For God's sake, it hasn't happened in India, but it has been experienced that school shootings, most of you have been seen in the TV news, media, TV channels every time, that some madman is purchasing the gun and bullets and going to school and started shooting these innocent children. For God's sake, the things are much more better here in India. These things has not taken place, but these are concerns where we have to think about safety and security of school or any other educational institution as well. Now take a look at the Indian scenario. 1995, Dagwali is a place in Haryana, and there a school award ceremony was going on in which the parents and teachers and kids all were present, and all of a sudden a fire took place at that place because of the faulty wiring, and almost 400 people burnt alive, and out of 400 people, half of them were children. You can think of the things, the structural safety again. 2001, Gujarat, Bhuj earthquake, everyone remembers that. That was a national holiday, and kids were not even within the classrooms. They were out in the streets doing Prabhat ferries because it was a national holiday and everyone was celebrating that. all of a sudden a massive earthquake took place, and at that time I was also a student in my hostel somewhere in Delhi, and by the evening or by the afternoon or the evening, the data started coming out, what has happened, and it was massive. Everything was destroyed in Bhuj. And when the final data came out, then we found that almost 31 teachers and 971 students were died instantly, and more numbers like 95 teachers and over 1,000 students were badly injured. Okay. This is very important since most of you are from Tamil Nadu state, so you can identify with the place that Kumbhakonam. Okay. This is actually the turning point in the history of Indian school safety and security matter. Kumbhakonam, like I told, most of you are from Tamil Nadu, is a place in Tamil Nadu, wherein in a building, in a single building, there were 2 or 3 schools running under the Krishna Memorial Trust. It's like primary school or secondary school or boys school or girls school, separate. And that building again caught fire. Okay. 95 children immediately burnt alive because they didn't have any way to go out, any exit place. And 18 were so badly injured that they never came back to life. And the picture you are seeing on your screen down below, when the investigating team of police officials reached the school, what is the situation of the classroom, you can see that. Everything is burnt, blackboard, walls, books, bags, everything is burnt. So what must have happened inside the classroom, you can imagine. And this is again, I am telling you, this is the turning point of school safety in Indian context, right? After that, school disaster management plan, school safety and security guidelines, everything was prepared, and it was mandated from the highest authorities to the lowest authorities that what are their responsibilities, how they have to complete that, and how they have to keep reporting to their higher officials from the school till the central government. It's completely a flow of chart, and any one of you, if you will be interested, you can go to the website of National Disaster Management Authority and you can find out their school safety guidelines, and you will be overwhelmed that on the papers everything is so perfect, even then why we are facing these situations. Anyway, just after a year, you can see the year also, 2004, that fire took place, and after 2000, just after a year in 2005, a massive earthquake again took place in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir region, wherein 19,000 children was dead and widespread collapse of buildings, school buildings. The upper picture you can see. And since this was the area of conflict, Pakistan-occupied Kashmir we are talking about, so immediate government intervention was not possible, and when international agencies started penetrating inside, after almost days or weeks, you can say, data started coming out that almost 20,000 children again have been killed because of collapse of school buildings. So 2004 and again after this 2005 impetus, this gave government of India a complete focus that what is the importance of school safety and what we have to do. And accordingly, they have did marvelous, great, excellent, but implementation is still weak because it's a state subject. Some states are extraordinary active, they have done excellent. Some states are have not been able to reach the required So now you can see a few news clips from last year. Like I told you, this has been done, that has been done on the paper, everything is excellent. But see, Surat Coaching Center, again, all of you must have remembered that. The entire building was under the fire and the students were forced to jump from the balcony because there was no exit route. Noida, NCR region of Delhi, the capital region NCR, a school building collapses and students are dead, 5 injured. Himachal Pradesh, bus going to the school falls in the gorge and 6 children die. Bihar, you can see midday meal, which is the most important nutritional meal for millions of children in the country. And after eating that meal, hundreds of children are seriously, severely fall sick. Bangalore, toddler again died. CCTVs. So you can think CCTV wiring in the school, which kills an 8-year boy. How an 8-year boy can reach out to the wiring of CCTV? That's something unimaginable. School bus hits train, this and then. You can see all these things. I'm not going to read out for you, but this completely gives you a picture that what is the situation of safety and security of the children right now. After this entire education system transformed into online system, and after that in Kerala, a class 10 student, a girl, was so much stressed that she committed suicide, and that was a second suicide at the time, and after that a lot of other suicides has taken place. So we all can understand what type of stress we are generating, because these kids are forced to commit suicide. And madam actually told you, Namrata, in the previous session, see, stress is sometimes good, but once it start accumulating, not being handled properly, and after that it becomes bad stress, and after that mental disorder, degeneration, everything starts. And it happens in front of our eyes, in front of us. We have to identify what's going on with the person who is in front of us. And if at the right moment we intervene, we can actually handle it, manage it. We can stop the suicide. But for that, we have to be very observant what is going in front of us, and how the person every day we are talking with, every day we are dealing with, is he or she is going under some severe mental stress or not. So anyway, both the structural and non-structural safety you can see here, okay? And both the things are very, very important. Sometimes non-structural safety also leads to end of life, right? Let's go to the next one. I'll focus now on the COVID-19, that if we are talking about school reopening and how we have to continue with the education, then what all we have to do. And UNICEF in June last year came up with a study that because of this COVID-19 situation, almost 9 lakh children within the South Asia is going to die, and out of that maximum will be from India, and the reason will be the malnutrition. Okay, so on the one hand, we can always think that we are middle class people, and economically you can say that we are well off if compared to the lower strata of the society, the country. And we are always focused on our children. That's a natural thing. And we always talk about if schools are going to reopen, why it's reopening, if the safety and security is not there, until unless COVID-19 has gone out. So till the time we have to close our schools, why to put our children at the risk of COVID-19. So, but you should also know that India is the one country who is the second largest in the world in terms of when we are talking about providing midday meals to the poor children. Okay, those poor children who are not having enough economical power or purchasing power to have one-time nutritional meal, they get that meal within their schools. And if schools were closed for 9 months, then that the entire nutritional requirement is again at the stake, compromised. So how long that has to go? Because those kids are hungry, they are not getting nutritional one-time meal. And some states started with other type of alternatives, but it was not so successful. And if a kid in his or her growing age being kept devoid of the required vitamins or proteins or nutrition, then in the future, believe me, that is going to hamper entire economy of the country, entire public health system of the country, and that is coming to us. That will come back to us whether we are part of it or not. So what is the thing? And the next point, not only this thing, this is very important and a crucial thing. And at the other hand, now the world over, when the schools or educational institutions started operating, then we can't keep our children within our home. We can't deprive them of learning. Okay, so with keeping both of these points in view, the decision has to be taken. Okay, that now this is the time of reopening, and accordingly phase-wise reopening. First 12 to 9 classes and universities, and after that now government is again thinking that above 5 class to 9 class they are going to reopen. But again, it's not mandatory. It's not mandatory. Safety and security should not be compromised, but at the same time we can't keep our children devoid of learning, educational opportunities closed within our home. So a balance is needed actually. And when that balance we are talking about needed in reopening of schools, then there are a few very important things we have to keep in our mind, and those will be coming on your screen right now. And the first thing is the basic principles. The basic principles, what they tell, that when we are talking about reopenings, we have to keep in mind always that until unless the last person in this country is vaccinated, how we are going to stop the spread of this disease, what is called COVID-19 or coronavirus. The first thing, don't force any sick student or teacher or staff to come to school. Okay? If even a family member of theirs are sick or feeling any symptom, then don't force them. Okay? It's not a normal time. The hand washing has been come up a lot of times, and I have on the very first day I have already explained it, the logic behind it, why hand washing is very important. So I'm not going to be over that. The next important point in this slide is social distancing. Okay, when we are talking about social distancing and specifically within the educational institutions, and that is also when we are keeping in view, we are dealing with this very young children, young toddlers, small kids. It seems that how they can do that, how can they maintain social distancing? It's difficult, but it's not impossible, and it has been practiced. It has been implemented, and very successful results has been come out. Okay, and how we can do it, we will be dealing with that in the next slides. The next important thing, whenever we are talking about reopening in this time, keep yourself always updated about symptoms of COVID-19, its complication, how it is transmitting, and how we can break the chain, right? And all the source of information should be something reputable. Something reputable, when I am talking about, I'm not talking about Facebook messages or WhatsApp messages, which we get every day on our mobile in hundreds of numbers. And out of those 100 messages, let me tell you, 98 to 99% are fake messages, unreliable messages, right? So don't believe onto that. Always believe in your government messages, in your government data, what health ministries are telling, what central ministries are telling, what your state government is telling. Their information may be delayed, okay, may come a day late, half a day late, but they are the reliable source of information, right? Similarly, UNICEF, World Health Organization, they don't spread any messages which don't have any scientific evidence or authenticity. So keep yourself so much intelligent that you can distinguish what is actually authentic and what is actually fake. And many times you're leading news channels, because they are the TRP hunger is there. It's an industry, okay? It's an industry, it's a market. They are not responsible actually for the safety and security of people. Let me tell you very frankly, they are profit generating industry. So many times, without checking the authenticity of the information, they come up with something that is not reliable. So always, even reading news channels, whatever they are showing you, try to think whether they are telling right or wrong, because they are not responsible for your safety and security. But government is, and that is why government information may be a little bit delayed, but it's always reliable. And similarly, with reputable source of international organizations like UNICEF, World Health Organizations, leading universities of the world, they come up with facts, figures, scientific information, not first come, सबसे तेज. No, that is not the way. Anyway, when we are talking about safety reopening, again, a few very important points will be coming on your screen, and please keep reading that, okay? Right now, whenever we were talking about school safety plans or disaster management plans of educational institutions, we hadn't faced some sort of pandemic because, and hence, there was no experience. So how to deal with this pandemic was not into our disaster management plans. Okay, but when we are planning about reopening and something related to COVID-19 happens, some emergency happens, some cases are coming severe or mild, then how we have to handle that? We have to identify the stakeholders who will be responsible for that, and accordingly we have to update our plans. Either it's the school emergency plans or university emergency plans, right? During the time of lockdowns and closures, we have also seen that schools, since they are having the largest place, most of the time, space, like grounds, auditoriums, rooms, classrooms. So they were used as shelters when migrant laborers were going from one place to another place, and also as temporary treatment units when the hospitals were completely filled up with COVID-19 patients. There were no beds, there were no place. So schools were converted into shelters also and treatment units as well. But when we are talking about reopening, we have to guarantee that the educational institution or the school will only be used for educational purpose, nothing else. Not even for the community events, meetings, whatever, right? Only for educational purpose, nothing else. Hand washing, I'm not going again into that because all of you know how important it is right now. Okay, now let me tell you few more things, important things. See, this is what you are watching on your screen right now, like disinfecting or sanitizing the frequently touched spaces or the places or the equipments. That's not an universal list, okay? Based on your structure and resources of the school, you have to identify yourself. What are the common places where a lot of hands are going and touching that? Okay, I mean to say, you to exemplify that if it's a biology lab, then a lot of students are going and touching the same equipments and everything. Similarly, within your sports room, if a badminton racket or a cricket bat is there, everyone is going and touching that. So these are the things, even railings you can think of. The common thing, very common thing I'm exemplifying because from that we can get an idea what we have to do actually. If the school or the college is multi-floor, then everyone is going up and coming down from the stairs, then touches the railings of the stairs. Similarly, washrooms, if washrooms are being used by a lot of persons, then every time everyone is going and coming out, and they touch the handles of the washroom. So identify all those things which are frequently touched and try to keep that disinfected and sanitized, and better 2 times at least in a day, 3 times or after each uses. That's the best. After this first important point, the second important point we discussed about social distancing and how we can do that. So let me tell you, when we are talking about social distancing, then 2 or 3 points we have to remember, and age group of children also we have to keep into the consideration, because those children who are completely dependent on us or their caretaker or the parents or the teachers, they need extraordinary care. Okay. The second group of children who are dependent and they can understand the directions and guidance of their guardians, to whom you always can tell what to do, what not to do, and just keep a close watch whether they are following it or not, and they develop. Okay, but dependent children, you have to be extraordinarily careful. But social distancing can be managed, and like I told you that has been implemented and wonderful results has come out of it. When it was a peak of the admission session, just when the lockdown was being a little bit eased and school admission session or the college admission session was going on, a lot of teachers and universities started contacting us, sir, how we can maintain social distancing. You people always talk about social distancing, but there are a lot of people, parents, everyone is coming in long queue and this and that. We are completely unable, and we are also afraid that even one person is infected in within the crowd, then everyone is going to fall sick. So we actually came up with an idea with a lot of research, and we talked with those institutions and we helped them. And see, staggering is one thing through which social distancing within the educational institutions and even the professional organizations offices can be maintained. Staggering is what? Staggering is a concept which means that you are stretching something. Okay, if something is short, you try to pull it and it's stretched, right? And staggering in the sense of social distancing can be done in two ways. For social distance, for social maintaining social distancing, it can be done in 2 days. Staggering with hours and staggering with days. Suppose that my office or my school or my college was opening 5 days a week. Now it's open 7 days a week, right? That gives me extra 2 days to handle the crowd, to manage the crowded class or anything. Similarly with hours, like my school was opening for 6 hours a day, and now I have stretched it to 8 hours. So I got 2 extra hours. Let me give you an example, okay? Because this makes the things confused. Suppose that a class is of 60 students and class is so crowded that all those 60 students are not able to sit within the class maintaining 1 meter distance because classroom is small. So what I'll do, I'll divide that class into two groups, 30 students, 30 students. Now this is also as per the size of the classroom, okay? If I feel that now, okay, all the 30 students who were sitting very closely, now they can maintain 1 meter social distancing when they are sitting onto the bench or even on the floor. That is the best thing. I maintained social distancing and I staggered hours. 45 minutes for 30 students, 45 minutes for another 30 students, right? So this is just an example, and this is again not an universal example. If you have a very big classroom where all the students can maintain 1 meter distance when the class is going on or the teacher is taking the class, go ahead with that, no problem. But think always how we have to reduce the crowded condition which were previously in the educational institutions. That situation should not be right now. Otherwise, what will happen in Andhra, where I am working right now, government taken a decision for reopening of schools, and just after 2 or 3 days, the data came that almost 600 or 700 students and teachers and staffs got infected with COVID-19. So that must be avoided. Always go with staggering techniques, avoid crowding, and since this is unprecedented situation, we have to work a little bit extra. We have to give our best actually with little extra efforts. And the other thing which is associated with that you have to cancel all those things which are generating crowded conditions like assemblies, games, and sports, and whatever it is. Okay, these are the things. And the one very important thing here is with social distancing is associated that, see, children starts following their elders, their role models, and role models are always the parents and the teachers. In most of the cases, it has been seen the role model of kids are either their parents or their teachers. So once you start following that, the kid will start following automatically. Like Namrata ji also gave you an example that if a parent is watching TV 24 hours and if he or she thinks that his kid will not be crying for TV, or a parent is using a mobile 24/7 every time, tip, 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 and he feels that why my kid is crying for mobile. This is not going to happen. First, you have to model yourself. You show what you are, and your kid will start following, right? These things I have already discussed. Go with the writings, okay? Plan all I have already discussed how we have to develop our plan, and now we have, when we are discussing about the school safety plan or the educational institution plan, then all information related to COVID-19, what is the number of hospital, who is the caretaker, everything should be updated into the plan. Here, only one important thing is that which I haven't discussed: stigma. See, when we are dealing with COVID-19 and specifically with reopening of educational institutions, and if we found someone within our friend circle or the teachers group or the staff groups or anyone within our fraternity of educational institution is infected with COVID-19, then we don't have to create stigma actually. This is not something unwanted has happened, okay? I mean to say, Hindi mein we say it daviye prakop. It's not a daviye prakop, okay? It's a biological disaster actually, okay? And it's like any other common cough, cold or flu until unless now vaccine is there, until unless everyone is vaccinated. Nothing else. Nothing something like that. God's wrath is that. So stigmatization should not be there. Stigma should be avoided. And because also today it's with someone else and tomorrow it come to us. We can't say that we are completely safe. Tomorrow I may be infected. And if I start hating someone who has been infected with COVID-19 today, tomorrow I will also be hated by others. So stigmatization is a big, big no. Be helpful, careful, and golden rule of disaster management is always that first keep yourself safe, and after that help others. Right? Stigmatization, no. Here also almost I have dealt with in my talk, but the few important things I can see when we are developing our plans and school safety or educational institution guidelines, then all the updated information should be shared with all the members of the educational institution, staffs, caregivers, students, family members, teachers, parents, everyone should be. So whatever upgradation, latest information, the mode of action, if someone is found infected, then how we have to deal with that, where depending on the case that whether that is a mild case or a severe case, how we are going to deal with that, everyone should be updated about it. And most of the time, educational institutions are already having the best platform with parents, teachers, and educational authorities meetings. Like many times schools have developed WhatsApp groups and this, and so all those things should be used in a creative way to disseminate all this information so that everyone should be aware. And in case of any insurgency or any emergency, okay, everyone is aware that what I have to do and how I have to do. There should be no confusion at all. And one important other thing in this slide is that when we are talking about educational institutions, there are a lot of competitions used to happen there, like debate competitions, poster competitions, painting competitions. Right now, all this should be focused towards COVID-19, and all those posters which came out of those competitions or those extracurricular activities should be posted on the walls, because children learn from that. Whatever they are looking in front of their eyes, whatever is there in front of their eyes, whatever they are observing, whatever they are seeing, watching, they start learning from that. Okay, so this is a good idea, and it will have wonderful positive impacts. This also, no, this is a few things here is important, so that I should mention that. Like previously, we were going with very strict rules and regulations while managing our academic calendar or exams within the schools or educational institutions. Right now, we should be a little bit liberal. Okay, we should be liberal with the attendance also. Like I told, if anyone is sick within the family members or the staffs, even other family members, and don't force anyone to come to the educational institution. So flexible attendance is important here. And let me tell you that today your school or educational institution may be in a green zone, but we don't know after 2 months or 3 months what will be the situation, and that green zone may be turned into a contaminated zone, contamination zone. So what will happen, whether your educational institution is completely safe or not, but if it falls within the area of containment zone, then by government rules and regulation, you will be automatically forced to shut it down until unless it's again into the green or orange zone, right? So in that situation, if you have a very rigid way of your academic calendar, then everything is going to be lost, because you won't be able to help it out. How long it will be into the contamination zone, and again, after how many days, weeks, or months it's going to be into green zone, we don't know. You don't know. No one knows, right? So be flexible, right, with everything, whether it's exams or the classes or anything, and always try to do classes online. Okay, these all things you can just read out, because it's about how we can continue with education right now. The maximum use of e-learning strategies, online strategy, that is what we are also doing right now here on this platform. Reading and exercise materials give a lot of home study and everything, but not a lot. I always see that suicide, that stress, the teacher should always be aware that what is the resources my students are having, how much comfort we are giving them, because bad stress will always not promote them, the students, for learning. Rather, it will force them for a bad type of stress, mental disorders, and ultimate thing you have seen in the news clip, that there is no way out and I'm suicidal. So always, whenever going for giving a lot of exercises, reading materials, always think what type of student he or she is, because teachers are the best one who knows everyone, every student, each and every student, the teacher knows. Understanding the thing, be flexible in that also. Okay, it's better to keep learning, continue learning, rather than disrupt the entire developmental process of a child, right? So this is the important thing. As a teacher, we all have to think about it. As a parent also, we all have to think about it. Learning is important, but not forceful learning, right? Not forceful learning where bad stress starts generating. And now this will be a new normal, that after COVID-19, many international agencies and leading universities of the world, after a lot of research, has come to an conclusion that COVID-19 is not the first and last sort of pandemic which we have seen. Maybe in future there will be more severe similar pandemics which will force us to again go for the shutdown and closures and lockings. So why to go for that? Why not to prepare how to deal with that? Okay. Someone told me that I don't want to send my kids to school because I can't take the risk of getting them infected by COVID-19. Then I told them, do you think that this COVID-19 is first and last? It will never come again, because the research is showing that this is not the first and last. Many more are there to come. So what is the best way out? Uh, Whether you will prepare your kids, your students for your children for that, or you just keep them always within their home, devoid of everything. So the next question I put that, okay, the road is full of accidents, okay, but you don't you think that your kids should start learning how to ride a bicycle, how to ride a scooty or a motorcycle or a car, because the road are full of accidents. So what you do, you don't send them, you don't go on the road, you don't drive. No, you do that because learning is part. And if the world is like that, there are accidents on the roads, then we take precautions, safety measures. There are a lot of safety measures. We have to teach them how what is the red light, what is the green signal, what is the pedestrian lane, and accordingly we teach them, we guide them, and accordingly they start driving. And similar with the COVID-19, if the same thing world is telling, the leading scientists are telling, everyone is telling that this will keep happening, then why not to develop our safety and security mechanism, how to deal with the situation and continue with the life. So this is the thing. And we have to think mental health, psychological aspects. Madam already discussed a lot. I'm not going to touch it, right? But again, go with the slides. Sorry. I think Namrata ji has already discussed all the points here, what I have written. So I'm not going to discuss this one. I'll just skip that. But you just must read it once, right? So the last fact is there again on my slide. First thing, recognize the symptoms. Until unless everyone is vaccinated, we have to keep whatever we were doing, keep doing what we were doing in the past. Symptoms, identification, upgradation of knowledge, information, and in any case, if something is found inappropriate, extra careful, talk to doctors, talk to family members, okay? All children, staff, teachers in school or educational institution only when they are healthy completely. If anyone is complaining about bad health, don't force them. Hand washing is very, very important. You will just keep watching that, because hand washing is the key of breaking the chain of COVID-19. Be aware and do it regularly. 20 seconds. Sing a song for 20 seconds so that you are sure that 20 seconds are over. And the logic behind why 20 seconds, I already discussed with you on the first day. Children, very delicate, physically also, mentally also. So always be extraordinarily observing whether they are going through only the good stress or the stress is accumulating and it's getting towards the bad stress. Okay. Once you will start observing very closely any behavioral changes, what Namrata ma'am told, it will be completely visible, and immediately if you see that any behavioral changes are taking place, help them out, right? And along with that, thank you very much. Someone, Angela is a housewife, and she came up with a very good saying actually, that while we try to teach our children all about life, it is our children who teach us what life is all about. Thank you very much. And we are open for the questions. I'm here.
Thank you so much, sir. Let me read out one by one the questions. Most of the questions are related to mental health issues.
Right?
Mr. Rabi Narayan has raised that, can you explain how to control the stress? May I request Ms. Namrata ma'am also to join here. Am I audible, ma'am?
Baluji, one thing I would like to tell you,
Yes, sir.
try to identify the questions very intelligently, because something new which we would like to discuss in the question session, not what actually have been discussed in the presentation, because we are going to share the presentation actually with all the participants.
Sure,
So
sir.
if all this, what question right now someone has asked, it's already dealt in the presentation at a very lengthy talk. What are the ways, how we have to identify, how we can reduce it. So something new we would like to go ahead with, which is not touched in the presentation actually.
Sure, sir. There is one more question raised by Mr. Rakul, I think. How can we overcome the dreams, dangerous dreams, or the dreams related to ghost? Can we overcome from that?
Okay, Namrata, would you like to go ahead with that?
Is raising about the question about how can we overcome from the dreams, dangerous dreams or dreams related to ghost.
That's okay. I'm just asking Namrata. Can you unmute Namrata so that she can talk?
She's also a co-hosting.
I was trying to, I was on mute. Sir, the
Yeah.
question was how to overcome dangerous dreams and
Dreams related to ghost.
Balu, question is still not clear. Again, please, very slow.
The person has raised that how can we if he is having some dreams related to ghost.
Ghost, fear related to ghost. Okay, it's paranormal. So, Namrata, up to you.
okay, so dreams are obviously of two kinds. One is a good dream, the other is a bad dream, and that basically depends on our life situations, what we are dealing with. So, first of all, dreams take place, they manifest our life situations or what we have been thinking or facing throughout the day, emotionally, behaviorally, whatever, they manifest into our dreams. So, somewhere down the lines, whatever we experience in our dreams are our subconscious or unconsciously what we have been thinking, right? So that is what dreams are. And when we talk about dangerous dreams, first thing you can do is when as soon as you get up, and if you get up in the middle of the night because of a dangerous dream, you need to first just get up and have a glass of cold water because that will relieve your entire body. After that, if you feel that that dream was related to a real life situation, and if you have somebody around you, you can talk to them about it. And when you feel much more relieved, then you can go back to sleep. However, if you don't have anybody with you, आप अगली सुबह उठे, you can keep on writing down those dreams, and then you can properly analyze what was the actual cause. So, dream analysis is a very in-depth study, and it was a concept given by Freud. So, I can't go into too much detail over here, but the main thing that you need to understand is that talk about it to someone. If it is causing you stress on a day-to-day basis and it is hampering your daily functioning, then talk about it to a family member. Maybe they will be able to guide you, or you can, if it is actually disturbing your day-to-day function, then you can't even, get that sleep, even that little bit of sleep, then you should definitely consult a clinical psychologist. So that is a very short answer for you.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is raised by Mr. Subramanya. He raised that what is toxic personality disorder? What is a toxic personality disorder?
So I don't think that's a question that can be taken up over here. Also because it's a very technical question, and there is no such thing as toxic personality disorder, sir. there are a number of personality disorders, but Balu sir, I don't think that this question can be
Sure,
taken.
ma'am. Yeah, I'll move on to the next question.
Yes.
Actually, let me allow to put a few words about that. See, when we are talking about disorders, right, like Namrata told that there is no specific disorder type toxic disorder personality. Okay, a lot of disorders, but not like toxic disorders. But here, what participant is asking is if someone is I mean to say a drug addict or an alcoholic or an addict, any sort of addict. Uh, uh, then normally, in general terms, people used to say a toxic type of personality. Okay, but that's not a scientific term actually. Okay, it's not into the mental health disorders anywhere talking about toxic personality disorder. Okay, so there may be reason, drug addict or alcoholic or tobacco user or whatever, but that is some sort of mental health disorder. There are something other related to that thing. Nothing like that. This is not a right terminology yet. One more question here. I am seeing that who invented the concept of modernization or something like that. So how you come for this child-centric DR and modernization? What is the relevance between the two? But I can answer you that. See, M.N. Srinivasan, the great sociologist of India, came up with the concept of Sanskritization and modernization both. But since
There's
this
a slight echo in your voice. Maybe you can move a little closer to the laptop.
yeah. So let me
Yeah.
come up a little
Thank you,
bit
sir.
closer. So M.S. Srinivasan, the greatest sociologist of India, came up with the concept of Sanskritization and modernization both. But this is not the right platform to discuss the sociological concepts. So you can come up with, to me personally whenever you want. We can discuss all sociology, right?
Thank you, sir. There are so many questions, relevant questions to the subject and also basic questions.
You can always come up with all the relevant questions, Dr. Balu, no problem.
Okay. And Mr. again, Ramasubramani Raja has raised, how can I help my child with obsessive thoughts?
Help my child with
Obsessive thoughts. Obsessive thoughts.
Obsessive thoughts.
So,
obsessive thoughts. Okay, Namrata, your turn.
Who has asked the question to maybe unmute himself or a little, maybe elaborate a little more what kind of obsessive thoughts we are talking about, right? Now, obsessive thoughts can be mostly when you are obsessed with a particular kind of thought, it hampers your day-to-day functioning. And when we talk about obsessive compulsive disorder per se, which people use this word is used very casually nowadays because people think if I'm obsessed with something, if I'm obsessed with cleaning, if I'm obsessed with having things in order, I have that disorder, right? So I'm not really sure what kind of obsessive thoughts you are talking about. But the first thing again you need to do is have an open communication with your child. Also, it depends on what is the age of your child. Okay. Now, I don't know how you came across the fact that your child is having obsessive thoughts. Maybe you have an older kid and he told you that I'm having these kinds of thoughts. And even within these obsessive thoughts, there are different types wherein people find it difficult to stop thinking about a specific person. Maybe they can't stop thinking about a video game, and some people can't stop thinking about cleaning around the house. They want everything in order. So, obsessions and thoughts can also vary from person to person and according to age. So, if you feel that it is happening in the child's day-to-day functioning, then you need to first talk to him, make a note of what kind of thoughts he is having. If some people also have sexual thoughts, and even adults, even children, but in any case, it is not considered to be healthy. And after that, if you feel that is something which you can't take care of, then again, I would say you need some sort of professional help. I was not able to answer very specifically because the question was very, vague. It was kind of everywhere. So I was just able to explain to you what kind of obsessive thoughts a person can have. how it can be disturbing to the child, and how you can take care of it.
Yes, thank you very much for such an elaborated answer. Dr. Balu, next two questions more. And we will stop that. I think Balu is here. Or Namita, you can see the questions yourself and you can answer
Yeah.
them.
So there is one question. One second.
I have sent the questions
Okay, please.
personally to both of you. I request you to find which is the relevant question because there are so many questions I have sent to both of you, sir.
Okay, somebody is asking what are 10 signs of a good, healthy relationship? Do you get the question we need to take here, sir?
No, this is not the platform for this. This is child-centric DRR.
Yeah, if we were to focus it a little more on children, then I could give you a few points where you can maintain that healthy relationship. The first thing is be completely open with your child. Keep that open communication. Trust your child. And like I said, your child will not lie to you. Especially young children, they don't have a motive. They are selfish. They will always tell you the truth about their body, what they are feeling. So trust them. That is the biggest thing. And in case, another way of keeping a healthy relationship with your child is to share your thoughts, your feelings with them as well, so that they in return feel that my parent is open with me, I need to be open with them. Never disrespect them in front of another person, and treat them as equals. Don't treat them with like someone who is inferior to you. So I think these are a few things that you can do to keep a healthy relationship with your child. Sir, if you would like to add, then you're most.
No, that's fine. That's perfectly all right.
So I think that's that. Yeah, I think we've pretty much taken up most of the questions, sir.
Oh, that's fine. So, Balu, we can go up with the benediction system.
Thank you, sir. Now, shall we move on to the participants' feedback, oral feedback?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir. Now, I request few participants, you can share your oral feedback. Kindly raise your hand, or kindly raise your hand or type your name in the chat box so that I can unmute you. Okay, Irlappan.
Good morning to one and all.
Yeah.
First time I participated in a seminar about childcare. In my childhood, I faced my stress in my school. I overcome with the help of my mother. She is also a teacher. I learned about stress management, emotional outburst, and other kinds of stress.
Are you there? Mr. Irlappan, are you there? Your voice is breaking.
Yes, sir, I am here, sir.
Yeah, please. Please continue.
Thank you, sir. I accept stress always present in
I think
all
there
age,
is
but childhood is the time of enjoying environment. In modern days and technology development, the case of decrease the volume of is the case of the stress to the children. The nuclear family cannot handle the stress of children. On the course for the depression, so parental care is important in reduce of stress. It's seminar useful to about know the stress faced by the children, and it's remember the disaster affects the life of the children. How to recover from the experience in disaster, and psychology about the children in they face about the Sharma tell about the faces stress about the children, and thank you, sir, Mr. Kumar Raga, sir, about the disaster management, how to face the children the disaster, and how many of them affected the disaster. And I thank one and all.
Yeah, thank you. Now I invite M. Ramasubramanya Raja to speak. He raised his hand.
Good morning, sir, and good morning, ma'am. This webinar is very useful to me, for the purpose of stress, um, for the purpose of stress level. For any time, now I control the stress for may, uh, control the stress and maintain the stress also. For I thanks to Namata Sharma ma'am and including to that Kumar sir. I asked a question now, sir, Kumar sir.
Mr. Ramasubramanian, this is the feedback session.
Sorry,
I request
sorry,
you
sir,
to
sorry.
only feedback.
Oh, okay, sorry. Thanks to this feedback.
No, you can put your
Very useful.
you
Thank
can
you,
put
thank
your
you, sir.
question. You can put your question, and while giving the closing remarks, I'll answer that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes,
that's
sure. 1 second.
please ask your question, Ramasubramanian.
Who gave the concept of market?
It's
So
all
that I already told you that you can discuss with me in details whenever you want. It's by M.N. Srinivasan, who was the one of the greatest sociologists of India. And first he gave the concept of Sanskritization, and after that the concept of modernization. And there are little bit details about it that will take quite a lot of time if I start explaining here. So not the right platform for this answer. Okay, so you can always contact me and I'll answer you that separately, personally.
okay. Thank you. Well, sir, any other students would like to, or any other participant would you like to
Two students
feedback?
there, sir. Only.
Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Akhilesh from Vivekananda College. First of all, I thank all the members to conduct such a wonderful program to us. I was very fascinated that today we have the psychology professor Narmata Sharma, who gave a dedicated lecture on us, dedicated lecture about child psychological health and parent psychological health. It was very useful to us to teach about that. And I also attend many body shaming activities in childhood memories, but we have to improve the child mental health so that they can improve their future with nice and mentally characters. So we consider this program as a very useful and interesting program to us. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Anybody else?
Good afternoon, sir. I am M. Hariran, third B economist from Vivekananda College. Sir, first of all, I am really thank you, sir. Psychologist Madam Narmata Sharma in more information thoughts of our PowerPoint slide. Sir, I am expression with the lovely information of slides, sir, all slide. The important of headline of side, effect of children and behavioral of children, alternation in connective functioning, depression in children, sir. In four point of information slide, in very clearful in sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much. Dr. Vadivel, sir, is it over? Still anybody is there?
No, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sir.
Now I invite Dr. Kumar Raka, sir, to give a concluding remarks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Balu. I'll not take a lot of time because we are already 30 minutes past the scheduled time. So my final information to all of my final words to all the participants here on this platform who attended these last 3 days of program is a single message. Okay, whatever you have learned on this platform in last 3 days, don't keep that only to yourself, right? First thing, practice that in your life, implement that, and the same information we are sharing all the PPTs and everything with you. Try to educate others also who don't have this knowledge, this mental issues knowledge, or the children impact of disasters on children, and how the educational institutions are going to reopen, how we have to safe, ensure the safety and security of our children, or even the basic, very basic concepts which we talked about, and how to reduce the risk. The first thing we have to understand, risk is everywhere, and by reducing our vulnerability and exposure, we can reduce the risk, and by increasing our capacity, we can reduce our risk. So all those information which you have learned in last 3 days, implement in your life and also educate others. That is how we will achieve a disaster resilient India. And once the kid very younger starts getting trained for all these things, and if we focus towards child-centric DR, all the children today who are the kids, tomorrow they will be the leaders, the bureaucrats, the professors, the teachers. And once the entire concept of this DRR is calculated into their lives, then actually in coming years we will be achieving the disaster resilient India, which is the dream of our honorable Prime Minister, and also as being a signatory of Sendai framework, that is our mandate as well. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot to all of you, and we will be looking forward for a lot of association. And last but not the least, I would like to convey my thanks to the college authorities who organized such a wonderful program, wherein a large number of participants participated and very actively actually participated. So thanks to all the college authorities, the principal, the dean, all the organizers here, and also my team, Dr. Balu.
Raka sir, you went on mute.
Okay, so that is, I was just giving thanks to all of my team members, also Dr. Balu, Ranjanji, and Namita ma'am. And they have given their best. They have given their best, a lot of efforts, and all those presentations have gone through. There are a lot of research efforts behind it. A lot of studies are behind it. So all the efforts, if translated into the implementation and dissemination, all this information to others, our efforts are successful, and that will help us somewhere in achieving disaster resilience. So thank you very much. Thanks a lot to all of you. Thank you, Dr. Khan.
Sir, can I just add one thing, sir?
Yes. Yes.
Like sir said that please take this information forward. One of the persons who had given us a feedback, he said that he realized that in childhood he went through a bit of incidents with body shaming, and that is the beauty of these trainings. That sometimes something that is not even aimed at you, something we have not even talked about, it comes out. And especially if you talked about mental health, we did not discuss that topic, but you actually felt it. So what Raka sir said, that please take this information ahead, and when you take this information ahead, somebody else might come up with their issues. So you might unknowingly help so many people by sharing this information. So yes, that's all I want to say, and that is actually the beauty of these trainings. The more forward you take them, the more enhanced the knowledge will get more enhanced. So yeah, thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kumar Raka sir, for giving the point, and this Namrata ma'am. Just I'll take 1 minute, then we'll go for a vote of thanks. Actually, Dr. R. Vanirajan, former vice principal, was supposed to join the annual session as a guest speaker. He couldn't join. Just he has passed, and saying that the disaster manager should have a mother's love, father's care, ruler's protection, and God's grace. This is the message is being given by Dr. Rajan, and also said that the children should be fearless to and face the challenges and face the disasters. He used the word in Upanishad, Abhinhi. He used the word from Upanishad, Abhinhi. The children should be fearless. With this, hand over to Dr. C. Vadivel to deliver a vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to all. Occasion. First of all, I submit by sincere and simple pranams to Founder Swami Pujaniya Sivananda Maharaj. I am very happy to thank National Institute of Disaster Management, New Delhi, joining with us to conduct this 3 days online training on child-centric disaster risk reduction. I am very pleased for College Secretary Swamiji and Kulabadi Swamiji Maharaj for their acceptance and encouraging to conduct this 3 days online training program. I would like to thank Professors Santosh Kumar, Professor and Head, Child-Centric Disaster Risk Reduction, his enthusiastic opening remarks in the first day. Next, I would like to thank Major General Executive Director of his keynote address in the followed session. Then I am happy to thank Dr. T. Venkatesan, Principal of Vivekananda College, for this in this 3 days online training program in the same day. I'm happy to thank Dr. R. Vannirajan, former Principal of Vivekananda College, who delivered the special address. We are very much. I would like to convey my sincere thanks to National Institute of Disaster Management, coordinator of 3 days online training program on child-centric disaster risk reduction. Heartful thanks to first day resource person, Dr. Kumar Raka, for his wonderful talk in the title of Do's and Don'ts on COVID-19 and home to home school safety. Next, extend my big thanks to Dr. I. Balu with his informative and basic concept of disaster risk management. Then next I submit my sincere thanks to Mr. Ranjan Kumar with his wonderful talk about disaster impact on children. Today, my words are not enough to express the gratitude to the resource person, Ms. with her inspire and informative talk about mental health of children in the time of disaster. I am also happy to thank our Vice Principal, Department HODs, Dean and Control of Examination, IQC Coordinator for their support and encouragement of this online training program. I would like to convey my sincere thanks to all my department staff members and the faculties of other departments of our college. Then I convey my thanks to all the participants from various parts of our country and abroad for the success of this online training program. It is my pleasure to thank the students, participants of our college. I extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Suresh Kumar for providing WebEx application for this online training program. Thank you one and all. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dr. Vadivel sir. My sincere thanks to Dr. Kumar Raka sir and Professor Santosh Kumar sir for approving this program to conduct with this institution. Thank you so much to all. The feedback link is shared with the chat box. I request all the participants to kindly fill the feedback. Thank you so much. Now the program may end. Padivel sir, shall we wind up the program?
Madam. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I request all the participants, the feedback link is given in the chat box. Kindly all of you fill it. जी
நமஸ்கார். அப்படியே இருங்க, ஒரு ஸ்கிரீன்ஷாட் எடுத்துக்கோ. மகிழ்ச்சி. ராமசுப்ரமணி, வெரி நைஸ் பர்சன். ராமசுப்ரமணி. Okay, thank you. Hello, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Jay. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.